what they say about the rose out the concrete, flowers blooming in dark rooms, proof of when God speaks. What a passion and grind me. Call it perfect timing or alignment. The assignment provide peace. Confirmation through conversation. My knees been blooded, been praying for patience. Embracing these affirmations, we made it. Hard times, but we made it. Been shaking the devil off under pressure, we never faded. We the living proof of the promise, being honest. We cut from a different cloth. Black excellence satisfying us, we the living proof. I don't deserve it, far from perfect. A product of taking chances and leaning on his discernment. We the living proof. Living legends, it's a blessing to be a blessing. Providing the youth for the new perspective. We the living proof. The living proof, y'all.
Alright, welcome back to another episode of Living Proof. We done got fancy today. We got a whole ring light. We got a white backdrop. Can't tell us nothing. But I am with my brother, Mr. Ahmad Grant. Man, it's a pleasure to be with you on this day.
You already know.
Discussing a very important topic. As you guys know, we've been focused on this whole concept of healing. And what better way to intertwine this series than with my brother who deals with his own healing, but also to help others heal. And so before we get started, before we even jump into these questions, man, who is Ahmad and what do you do for a living, man?
What I do for a living is I focus on my mental health. I focus on building and structuring myself to where I can just be this strong and important man. I try to break the stigma of mental health and really focus on how I can better myself daily.
Got you. So that aside, who is Ahmad? Like that sounded good. Who is Ahmad? Like job title, everything else aside, who is Ahmad Grant?
Ahmad Grant is a person that has dealt with a whole lot. All right, I'm a man that understands that toxic masculinity is a thing that I've been dealing with, but I know that I have to keep working on it daily.
Most definitely.
And I'm learned that I gotta first identify my problems and then fix them. So I know I'm not perfect, and I know I have to keep growing. So I'm a person that's just growing daily. I honestly say
that's a beautiful, man, and just in essence, this whole concept deals with healing, and I guess the subtitle would be Healers with Unhealed Trauma. To you, what is a healer, and do you define yourself as a healer?
So what I define as a healer is somebody who actually comes in and fixes and helps other people. Sometimes they'll give their last just to make sure that other people can be happy or healed, whatever what they got going on.
Most definitely.
All right, do I consider myself a healer? I would say yeah, because I'm always willing to give my last. I always live by this quote that if people who help other people before they help themselves always have good karma, or they always be blessed.
It comes back to them.
There you go. That's the good karma and that good energy.
That's beautiful, man. Do you believe the obstacles in your life had a purpose?
Oh yeah.
Like things you've been through?
Oh yeah, man. The things that I've been through, as far as I went through a depression stage before, and I felt like God allowed things to happen to you so he can work through you. So, if I never went through my depression stage, I would have never learned about mental health, especially black mental health, especially just mental health in just general, so I definitely
like my brother said, that's a bar. That's crazy. I was getting ready to read something you said. You said basically when I asked, do you believe the obstacles in your life had purpose? You said, I do believe the obstacles in my life had a purpose. A few years ago, I experienced a dark place in life. I thought it was normal. I was sad and angry all the time. I woke up every day with the pain in my chest, but I never knew how to fix this problem. I started self-medicating with alcohol in an attempt to help. But honestly, it was the complete opposite. After gaining control of myself, I noticed a year later that I went through depression. I immediately went to see a therapist. We're going to talk about that in a second. I never knew that I was going through a depression as a strong man. So now I use my past experiences to educate everyone with information on how to help themselves or others who may have mental health issues. And the bar that you just said, sometimes God allowed things to happen to you so he can work through you. Can you expound on that a little bit more? Because I thought that was not only beautifully written, but had power in it.
So I really understood that, and I heard that before, right? I heard somebody say it before, but I never connected with it on a mental telepathy level until I actually went through my depression stage.
Wow.
All right, so just what I mean by when God allowed things to God allowed things to happen to you so he can work through you, is the fact that sometimes we go through things in life and we don't understand what is happening. Sometimes we feel lost. Sometimes we feel like we're not in control of our lives. But later on, you'll understand. And it's up to you to see if you're gonna use that to help others or just keep that, balled in. I felt like when I went to my therapist, that's when I actually was like, okay, it's time to help others. That's when I found out.
I got you. Yeah. As black people, and not just black men, I feel like that whole conversation of having a therapist and going through therapy, it's like something we're shying away from. What was that, I guess, that breaking point for you was like, I need to go see a therapist or I need to get help. What was that point for you?
So when I went through my depression stage, I moved back to Gaffney with my dad. And I stayed strong after a certain point, and I moved back to Greenville. That's why I always loved Greenville. But the moment that I knew I needed to see a therapist was when I would kind of drift in and out of, like, I would be happy one minute and then I'd be sad one minute. Then I'd be like, okay, hold up, something ain't right. I want to be in control of me. So that's when I said, you know what, this is the drawing point. On my 24th birthday, on the same exact day of my birthday, I went to see a therapist. I booked my therapist on that day.
And so, what was that process like? I know a lot of people may be scared to go see a therapist, opening up. What was that process like for you going in? Like, what was your mind state going in?
So going in, I was confused. I feel like that's the number one key when it comes to people wanting to go to therapy or somebody who's like just want to know more education. There's no education for not just black people, but just people in general on how to get a therapist. So of course I went to Google, okay? Went to Google, I said.
For everything.
Yeah, therapy, okay? I was like, how to find a therapist in my area. And psychologytoday.com popped up. And I mean, Psychology Today definitely helped me out. That's how I found my therapist. You can find, if you want a short therapist, you can get that therapist. You want a white, tall therapist, you want an Asian. Like, you can find anybody, and just seeing that link, it really made me happy because I never knew what to do or how to get a therapist.
Man, that's beautiful, man. And going back from that aspect of healing, I know for me personally, I realized I blocked out a lot of things from my past.
Oh, yeah.
And so what may have been some things you blocked out from your past that as you're becoming a young man now that you had to face?
I would say the same thing as beginning toxic masculinity. All right,
let's talk about it, man. And for people who may not know what is toxic masculinity and how did it affect you?
So, okay, with toxic masculinity, what I define toxic masculinity is men who see themselves as the majority. They down talk women, or they always feel like they're the superior over anybody in any other gender or whatever. So, what I realized with my toxic masculinity, it was a learned behavior. Because growing up, my dad, my uncles, my friends, my brothers be like, hey, you better man up. You better be strong, you're a man. So growing up, that's the only thing I knew how to do. Even when I was going through hurt, I was going through my pain, they was like, hey, be strong. The men don't cry, men don't hurt. Cry. So when I learned, okay, I can't cry, I can't do this, I always balled that emotion up. And then when it came out, it came out in so many different ways. Not just trouble, but it came out with, hurting other women. Seeing women cry, like, man, bump that. I'm a man, men before women, okay? So that's one thing that definitely affected me when I was younger. And then, like, I'm working on it now. And still, like, I've gotten past that point. So now I really understand the value of a woman. Man,
that's beautiful. And so I guess in a sense, your toxic masculinity affected your relationships.
Oh yeah.
And I know it had to affect your relationships intimately, but how did it affect your relationships on a non-intimate level? Your relationships with daily with people.
I would say if it wasn't on like a relationship level, I would always kind of be cool with women, but I always keep them like kind of far away because I unsubconsciously knew what I was doing, but subconsciously knew what I was doing. I know it sounds confusing, but it's like I knew what I was doing, but I was like, nah, I still don't know. But I was just going through my day like, hey man, listen, all right, woman, that's you. You're a woman, that's you, but me, I'm gonna just be me. I'm a man.
I understand it. Yeah. I understand it. And so you kind of answer this question, but I kind of want to know your process. So my question is, where do you go to heal? So like, you haven't answered that question, but in essence, where do you go to heal?
Where did I go to heal? Like, of course, I talked to my therapist. Before I talked to my therapist, I talked to God. Of course, talking up God, try to see, if He direct me in the right path. But see, I know everybody be like, why get a therapist if you believe in God? But it's like, the Bible also says, faith without works is dead.
dead.
So, God, you have the faith. Now God is putting it in your favor to work on that. But after I talked to God, I talked to my therapist, and after I talked to my therapist, I talked to my brother. My brother is like one of my people that I always go to for things. I have certain people in my life that are for certain places. I know what level they're at. So yeah, that's where I go, man. And then if not, I just sit back and just be it by myself and actually think about what went wrong today, or what I need to do better, or what's going good. Just try to write them stuff down as well.
I feel you. And so what are the steps you're taking as far as when it comes to toxic masculinity? What are some steps you're taking to face that and deal with that to this day?
I'll take a look at my daughter. I take a look at my daughter and be like, hey, listen, I don't want another boy, another man hurting my daughter. So when I go in that place where I feel like I'm, about to be a toxic person, hey, listen, bro, you got a daughter.
You got a daughter.
So it's like I don't try to take too many steps. It's like I just automatically think of her, because that automatically snaps me into the place where I need to be. Because if you see a child hurt, it's like you hurt you too. So. Yeah.
So I'm glad you brought up your daughter. In your walk and your growth, what has your daughter done for you? On a physical, spiritual, and mental level. What is she? Because I know she had to change some things up for you.
She has grown me into a man. All right. Before I even having her, like, I know I was a little boy, but life was about me at that point. But when she came around, man, when she was born, like, life changed for me.
Wow.
And sometimes it's not even words to describe, because it's an unconditional love. Like, a love with no barriers, and a love with it has to be a gift. That, like, no. Like, she has changed the world for me, honestly.
Wow.
Opened my eyes, have a whole different perspective. That's why I really value women. I'm telling you, because once you really love somebody conditionally, you see that they can go through the same hurt that you was dishing out.
Wow.
Man, that's really changed.
Wow. So what would you say? And I know it's slightly off topic, but it definitely comes to my mind when you see fathers who don't handle their responsibility as men with their kids. I know it's completely different what you experienced, because you said it made you a man. How do you feel about those instances where men, I guess, are backing down from the responsibility that's supposed to change, their lives?
I feel like hurt people. Those fathers who don't want to take care of their kids or aren't in their kids' life, I feel as if their father probably wasn't in their life. And it could be other things that happen, but I feel like pain, if you don't never deal with that pain and that thing, like, it balls up in you, like, you take it out on everybody. And sometimes you become narcissistic because you don't realize that, hey, listen, you always putting the blame on somebody else instead of yourself. Because the moment that you put the blame on yourself, you'll start to realize that there's so much that you have to deal with. You know what I mean? So yeah, I feel like All
right, and my last question, but it's definitely gonna lead up to a couple of more. As you see, we got the different intentions brand on. But how are you using the obstacles, the pain, and your story to navigate through life right now?
I think this will go back to the question you asked earlier. I love to help other people. So what I've been through, I love to talk about it, because I don't know who I'm impacting. I could be helping somebody else out every time I tell my story, but I wouldn't have been able to tell my story if I wasn't comfortable or mentally healthy. So I really continue to work on who I am and become comfortable with who I am, so I can be able to help others. So I continue to try to impact. And then also having, starting not just a clothing brand, but something that breaks the stigma of mental health. That's definitely something that
I'm glad you said not just a clothing brand, because I think people get caught up in the brand and they miss out on the purpose. So what is the purpose of different? What does different intentions mean? I don't think I ever asked you that. Like, what is different intentions?
So different intentions. All right. So we use fashion as a conversation starter for mental health. All right. This thing I always say, but honestly, it started off real life situations. All right. So I said it earlier. God allowed things to happen to me so He can work through you. So the fact that I felt like connecting, especially in the Black community, connecting mental health to the Black community is hard. Because as soon as you say mental health, people are like, what? That's the crazy stuff.
Crazy stuff.
Yeah, they doing that. So it's like, what way to get them to connect? And what way to put the word out there fast and get people comfortable to talk about it? Why not do it with fashion? People love clothes. So it's like, all right, that was definitely what made me want to do it that way. But honestly, it's like, the reason why we continue to want to push with different intentions and the meaning of different intention is to intentionally be different. It started by me just saying intentionally different. You got to be intentionally different with your mindset. And then it was like, okay, yeah, turn it around, different intentions.
Yeah, that's real. That's real.
so that's definitely how it started.
That's real. So you have a young man, I'm just going to use young man, there may be young women as well, but you have a young man who done experienced some things, some things in life, and he feels hopeless. What would be like your recommendations for that young man? I know for me, my biggest part of healing was telling my story, and I think that's the whole platform of Living Proof now is being able to tell your story. But what do you feel? Some steps to take for young men to start that healing process and not be afraid of that healing that you have to face.
I would say first, educate yourself. When you educate yourself, you'll be able to understand so much more. So you have to be, I'm not gonna say too mature, but you have to want to be better, or you have to want to physically or mentally
So
fix.
it starts with the want to.
It has to.
Yeah.
It has to, because I can me or anybody else can keep feeding you information, but it's up to you to accept it. You can take a horse to the water, but you can't make him drink. So it's like first take that step to want to educate yourself. Even if you just browse, just look it up real quick. You don't gotta I'm gonna go 100% with it. But I would say first educate yourself. After that, identify the problems, identify what's going on, identify if something happened in your past or if it still affects you to this day. Identify that, and how you can identify that is look in the past. Write things down. What happened to you daily. That way you can memorize and go back and say, hey, listen, all right, this is what this is, or this is what happened on this day.
Exactly.
So after you do that, then if you want to fix the problem, go to a therapist, psychologytoday.com. That's the 3 major steps, I feel like. 3 major steps.
I got you. What is your vision for different intentions? What is it? Where do you see it 10, 20 years down the road?
10, 20 years, I actually want to see rehabilitation centers in certain communities, in rural communities, in our neighborhoods. Because I feel like if we start with the younger generation, or we give them somewhere to go to actually heal them, or even actually have them somewhere just to chill or educate themselves, I feel like it'll definitely help. Just having those centers, different rehab centers around, and I don't want to too much say rehabilitation. It'd be more of like a mentally wealthy center.
I mean, you can call it what it is. I mean, people got a negative connotation about that word rehab.
Thank you.
But it's really healing. You know what I'm saying? And healing, I feel like the goal is to be whole. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you.
I know, but rehab definitely has a negative connotation. But I felt you 100% about what you were saying. Yeah. And as a teacher, I'm starting thinking we need it in schools. You know what I'm saying? Instead of having ISS detention, have a place. You know what I'm saying? Where they can get their mind right. You know what I'm saying? And even in the prison system. So when I think about different intentions, not only on the outside, but I see it in the institutionalized in different schools, man, in prison systems. And so and beyond, man, it's needed, man. It's definitely needed.
Man, I greatly appreciate you even saying that, because I definitely said that the other day. Like I talked about how if they started us with learning about mental health at a younger age, imagine how mentally healthy we would be right now.
It'd be easier. And I think about how much stuff I hid in and tucked in. And that's crazy, because that's kind of one of the reasons I became a teacher, because I felt like my teachers couldn't understand me, you know what I'm saying? And everything was, he got an attitude problem, you know what I'm saying? Or he talking back, but they didn't care to realize, you know what I'm saying, what happened last night, you know what I'm saying, what happened this morning before I got to school. And so I really feel like if kids don't feel like they have to, tuck it in. When they get older, it's gonna be much easier to deal with, the issues that it's gonna happen. That storm is gonna come, you know what I'm saying, at some point. But you got to be ready for it.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Man, talk to me.
All right. So do you think it's a cycle with, being that teachers are underpaid sometimes, and being that they're underpaid, they're not able to mentally be ready to deal with each and every kid because they're dealing with certain things sometimes?
Man, I'm gonna tell you straight up, teaching is more spiritual than anything. And I know people understand that, because I think that's where a lot of my weight comes from throughout the day, and like why I get in certain moods, because not only are you dealing with the different spirits within your classroom, you connected to the ones when they go home. You know what I'm saying? So you dealing with so much more on a spiritual level. It's heavy. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think it's not that teachers don't care or don't have time. It's a burden, it's a weight, and at the same time, you're supposed to teach and educate those kids. And teachers got stuff going on at home, and we do got to find that separation, or we can bridge that gap, between home and school. But I think it's really just understanding the underpaid part don't help. Because I'm not gonna lie to you, because being underpaid, I feel like if we was paid more, it'll justify, you know what I'm saying?
That's what I'm saying.
What we got to deal with. But when people start seeing it from that spiritual level, man, it's tough. And it's tough. So that's why as a teacher, I can understand why teachers go off.
Yeah.
We see, don't condone it now, don't get me wrong, but when I see teachers going off on kids and making the news for crazy stuff, in my mind, it's just like that breaking point, you know what I'm saying? And it wasn't anything put in place for teachers, you know what I'm saying? I'm telling you, it wasn't anything put for them to heal, you know what I'm saying? And so it's just, we talk about a cycle. That's definitely something that's perpetuated within the system.
It's like, who does the go-to person go to?
The healers with unhealed trauma, man. I'm trying to tell you, like that, and that's really where this whole concept came from. Because I think for the first time I experienced depression, and I talked about it in one of the episodes. When school stopped, I was at home by myself every day, and like I told you, when you're by yourself, you got to deal with yourself. And it was just like, I wonder who else going through this too. You know what I'm saying? Like, who else going through this little dark space? And it definitely was a dark cloud, and it was heavy, man. But who was there for them? And so that's really how this whole living proof aspect even came about, man.
So I guess you can say that God allowed things to happen to you. So
He can work through you. I'm
People
telling
don't
you.
believe what I say.
And it's kind of crazy because I always wanted to start like the whole YouTube podcast thing. Never had time. And boom, all the time in the world. You know what I'm saying? And then in the intro, I gotta let you hear that after this. But my homeboy, he talks about perfect timing and alignment.
Wow.
And I really feel like right now, you know what I'm saying, it's perfect time. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody done been knocked off of something, their everyday routine, and now it's just like it's time to deal, you know what I'm saying, with us and ourselves. And so I think different intentions is a perfect avenue for people, you know what I'm saying, to speak out and to speak through. I know you do your things. Is it Tuesday, Thursday?
It's Thursdays.
Talk to them, man.
So every Thursday, check out Facebook, Different Intentions Facebook page. We do trap therapy. All right. Trap therapy is where we actually build a community to where people can actually come in and talk. Because we have all these things on social media, but what do we have that heals us? So that's I love trap therapy.
I do too. I've been checking in. I've been checking. Me and my old lady was listening to it. Was it the other day? Was it 2 days ago? Yesterday? What's the day?
The day's Friday. Yes,
it was yesterday.
Yeah. Man, listen. Oh my God. I think you came in. I think it was like one of the first or second episode, and it's like when you came in, like it changed my whole perspective because it's like everybody started opening up, and it made me feel good because like it's like we actually like are there opening up with each other. Like there's no other place that we actually do that.
One thing I'm learning, when you take that first step of that vulnerability, what some people say is a cuss word, but I see it's the gateway key. Man, lives gonna change. Man.
Yeah,
it's gonna change.
And it's like that's why I always appreciate you. I appreciate everybody because it's like people don't notice that if people don't reach out or be able to say, okay, I'm going to be vulnerable as well. Like we can't build that community, you know. So we got to put that wall down. Yesterday we was talking about putting that wall down because either you're going to block yourself from hitting that next level, or you're going to keep yourself locked in.
Wow.
You know, so.
Wow. So the choice is yours.
Yeah. Yeah, we do. Come on. We got everything we need right now in life.
I'm telling you, everything.
So.
So man, first of all, how can they find you on social media, all that good stuff? How can they talk to Mr. Ahmad Grant?
Okay, you can check out our website at differentintentions.com, or you can check us out on Facebook. You can check us out on Instagram at Different Intentions. You can check us out on LinkedIn and Pinterest at Different Intentions, either platform. If you personally want to contact me, you can check me out on Facebook and Instagram at Ahmad Grant _mental wealth and Ahmad Grant on Facebook.
Yes, man, we look like angels, right, with this white on. I ain't lying to you. Any last words, man? Anything on your heart that you want to say before we close out?
The fact that we changed everything so fast with this quarantine and all this COVID stuff, I always want people to understand if you never had a reason to go to therapy, you probably need it now because everything stopped. And I'm always going to advocate for mental health, and I'm always going to advocate for therapy, but right now would be the perfect time, even if it's virtual, or like I say, go to psychologytoday.com, and that way you can actually, go book a therapy session and find a therapist. You never know. You're going to love it. I promise you, you're going to love it. Like your therapy's dope.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up. Well, thank you again, my brother. This has been another episode of Living Proof, where your purpose is within your story. What's it, man?
That drum is fire, bro.